Hi, my name is Javier Albornoz, and today we'll look at audio editing in Adobe Audition. We're going to be using the Multitrack Editor to edit and manipulate audio. We'll see how we can apply effects processing to individual tracks in your Multitrack Editor and how to export audio. Once you have Adobe Audition open, you'll see your editor and mixer window here in your waveform view. But today we're going to work with the Multitrack Editor. So first we'll click on Multitrack and the new Multitrack Session dialog window will open. We'll work with the usual 48,000 Hertz or 48 kilohertz sample rate and 24 bits for our bit depth, and we'll choose our master output stereo as opposed to a single channel mono or 6-channel 5.1 surround setup. We'll go with stereo, which is 2 channels. Click OK after choosing the name of your session and location, and you'll see here that 5 tracks along with a master, 6 rather, along with a master will open by default in your Multitrack Editor window. If we click on our mixer, you can see those same 6 audio tracks here, along with your master channel on your right, where all 6 of these audio tracks will be summed and output to this one master track that is controlled by this single fader you see here. You can always add additional tracks if you needed to, but for now, these 6 tracks will be more than enough. So when we click back here on our editor window and we go up to our first track, the first thing we need to do is find audio files to work with. So if I click here in our media browser, I have a folder open with several audio files. So I'm going to drag this first file in, and this is a .wav file. It shows you the file name there, and you can see .wav. So once I drop it in here, you see the entire WAV file showing, including some silence. There's your recorded audio. And let's drag our second file that we'll be working with in here. And now you can see the second one was put into track 2. So we can come down here to the bottom right of our editor window so that we can zoom out, and you can see that our entire timeline is over 30 seconds because our clips are about that long. But if we need any more, we can always increase the size of our entire timeline. So for now, that'll be more than enough for what we're doing here. So the first thing we'll do is take a listen to our first audio clip on track 1 by clicking here on this S, which is how you solo this individual track. To the left of that, you can see there's an M, and that is to mute the track. And you see how the clip that is on that track is grayed out when you choose mute. So let's unmute. We'll choose solo. It grays out any other tracks that are not soloed, and we can hear that first clip we put on track 1.
Okay. The purpose of this virtual reality experiment is to show that standing.
Great. So let's unsolo and let's solo our second track here, and we'll hear what the audio on that track is.
The Museum of Tomorrow, in collaboration with Miami-Dade College's Magic program, proudly presents.
Great. So you can hear our 2 different tracks here do have some silence at the top and at the end of the file that is something that we would definitely be interested in editing out. So let's unsolo this. The first thing that I want to do is make sure that the bit of audio that we want at the start to be at the start of our timeline, of course. So what we're going to do first off is choose our razor tool here, and we're going to cut this audio, which is just silence and some stuff that went on before the actual dialogue was spoken. So once I've cut with the razor tool, I go back to our move tool and I can select that bit of audio and simply just delete it. Now I'll undo that so you can see there is another way to do this. When we're at the far left of our audio clip, you can see that these brackets with the arrow appear, and that lets you simply drag the clip to the desired location. So let's drag it to about right here and move it to the start of our timeline. Now we'll do the same over here with this end of the clip and bring it to somewhere around here. So the next thing I'd like to show you is these icons up here is how you can fade in and fade out. Now, because we do have a bit of silence right before the speaker began reading the lines, we do want to fade up that silence slightly, the way you would if you were editing video as well, dialogue within video rather. So we'll grab this clip here at the end, drag it a little bit shorter, and again, fade with the icon at the top right of the clip. So let's go back to the start of our timeline and hear those results. We don't need to solo because right now it's the only thing that's playing at that section of timeline.
The Museum of Tomorrow, in collaboration with Miami-Dade College's Magic program, proudly presents Amazonia, a virtual reality experience.
Great. So what we want to do now is edit this second clip where we can cut out again the silences that we don't want and join it with our other audio file so that it is one continuous line of dialogue with the appropriate space between the sentences, of course. So I'll do the same and I'll grab this fade in and fade out a little bit. Now if we go back, you can hear, we'll scrub back a few seconds and you'll hear that transition.
A virtual reality experience. The purpose of this virtual reality experiment is to show that standing forests are very important.
Great. So right now, because we're only working with these two clips, we can actually have both of these on one track and it wouldn't be a problem. And what that would actually allow us to do is a crossfade rather than fade in and fade out. So I'm going to undo that fade out at the end of the clip on track 2 and the fade in on the clip on track 1. I'm going to bring this clip down simply by dragging it, and I'm going to join it. And you can see here how it does snap, similar to Premiere Pro. It will snap to the end of that clip. But if I continue to drag, you can see how you start to see a crossfade automatically forms. And that's very, very convenient. Now, I don't want to have this crossfade going over any of the dialogue, of course, but a bit of that silence is perfectly fine. So I'll leave it right about there and let's see our results.
Virtual reality experience. The purpose of this virtual reality experiment is to show that standing.
Great, so I think that works really well there. Now, if you wanted to apply effects processing to these clips individually, we actually would want them on separate tracks. Because right now, if you go to our effects here, and you can see here that we have a list of inserts. I'm going to zoom the track a little bit bigger, and you can see here, this is where you would load your insert effects. Now, if you click here, rather than Media Browser on Effects Rack, you'll see the same list for the selected track. If I were to select track 1, this list reflects, as you can see here, insert effects for track 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move our audio clips to separate tracks as we had it before so that we can see how we can apply individual processing to tracks, clips on different tracks. So starting with this clip that we have here on track 2, we'll pick an insert effect that really exaggerates the change in the audio, but might not necessarily be something that you would be doing to a simple bit of narration like this. But for demonstration purposes, it'll be good to choose something that really affects the audio. So now that I have track 2 chosen, you can see here, again, these same inserts are the same that you see here, but this is just a little bigger and easier to work with. So I'll use the window here on the left. When I click the drop-down tab, you can see your list of effects, and if you had VST plugins or audio unit plugins, you would see those at the bottom. So for now, I'm going to choose a delay, and that's really going to change this narration in a cool, interesting way. So now let's play that back and see what happens.
The Museum of Tomorrow, in collaboration with Miami-Dade College's Magic Program.
Great, so you've got this delay happening to all of the dialogue that is on track 2. But if we advance here and listen to our clip on track 1,
the purpose of this virtual reality experiment is to show that
you can see how that audio is not affected. If I drag it down here, then
the purpose of this virtual
it is affected by this analog delay that we loaded. So it's really great that moving the clips to a different track, that allows us to actually load a different insert effect. So I'm going to choose track 1. I'm going to go here, and again, this is the same list you have here. This time we'll use this one just for demonstration purposes. And let's load a different effect. In this case, let's load Studio Reverb. So we're going to artificially put that in a space, in a reverberated space. And let's play that back and hear how it sounds.
Reality experiment is to show that standing forests are very important for the survival of indigenous peoples.
Great, so you can see there how it adds some reverb or echo. Now, if we wanted more of it, you can see here in this particular insert effect, you do have a wet and dry. So the dry signal being the unaffected signal, the wet being the reverb. Right now, it's at a 75-25 percentage ratio, but we can turn up so we can hear a lot more of that reverb. And we'll go back in our timeline.
The purpose of this virtual reality experiment.
And if we turn down the dry signal completely, you'll hear only the reverberated signal.
Is to show that standing forests are very important for the survival of indigenous peoples who depend on natural resources.
Great. So you can see how you can get really creative with insert effects and using different clips on different tracks, and it really opens up a world of possibilities for how you can affect individual bits of audio that you're working with. Now let's take a look at how we would export our finished work once we're done editing and applying our insert effects as we did. So if you go to the File drop-down in Adobe Audition, you'll see this export option. And in this case, since we are working with the Multitrack Editor, we're going to choose Multitracks Mixdown. Now, right now, the only option is Entire Session, but if I go back here and select both of our clips, return to File, Export, you'll see that under Multitrack Mixdown, we do have now the option for either Entire Session or Selected Clips. So let's go to Selected Clips so that our timeline is the length of those selected clips. Now, we have several options here. Of course, file name, location, our format, which we're going to leave as .wav, and our sample type we'll leave as same as source. And in that case, it would be the 48,000 hertz. But we don't want to export to 32 bits, so I am going to go to change for format settings, and I am going to choose 24-bit so that we stay at the same bit depth that our files were originally in, and we're staying with the audio for media standard of 48K 24 bits. So what's going to happen, as we chose current selected clips only, but we can choose here to change, and we can choose that we would rather export individual tracks, as you can see here, or the master. And if we had different master channel settings, either mono or 5.1, and as you see here, each source will be mixed down into separate files. So right now our range is selected clips, so we'll get about 25 seconds of audio in this case. And because our stereo master is chosen, as you see there, that's going to be the output files. So we click OK, we wait for our export, and there you have it. Our audio is exported and you're ready to deliver.